right, welcome back to the State of Gaming podcast. We're back again with Ryan and Julian, and got some interesting topics to talk about today. And we're going to start with a sad one, especially for me. The official end of Half-Life. For those who don't know, early this morning on August 25th, former lead writer at Valve made a blog post that was essentially the story that would have been for Half-Life 2 Episode 3, which for most people on the internet seems to signify the end of Half-Life. Like, this is it. This is all we're going to get.
At least in the way that we might imagine it.
Most people have seen this, okay, that's it. We're not getting a game. So why else would they spoil the game or allow him to spoil the game if it wasn't happening?
Well, it's more like, it's not an entire spoiler. If they were to release a game, this is just kind of like a summary of what's going to happen, in my opinion. But there's no confirmation of a game coming out or anything yet. So
there's still some pretty big reveals in that, though, that will certainly impact the experience of
a
the
different
game.
story.
And unless Half-Life 3 comes out and it's not even Gordon Freeman anymore.
It'll be a completely different
which is
thing.
very possible.
that's a huge troll.
Yeah.
I think that's the only way that they can do it, in my opinion, is if they just do a completely different story. Because this is what would have happened if he... What's his name again?
The writer, Mark Laidlaw.
Mark Laidlaw, yeah, thank you. If he had written for Half-Life 3, this is what we would have had. But, yeah, now since he's not with Valve anymore, it seems likely that if they do make Half-Life 3, which I really don't think is going to happen anyways, it would be something completely different at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
Might even be like a whole new... Might not even be Half-Life 3. It might just be a whole new series, a whole new storyline,
Yeah,
whatever.
Another spin-off, similar to like Portal.
I would think that's what I'm expecting at this point.
Adapted by somebody completely different,
Which isn't so bad. Honestly, I wouldn't mind anything. And another Valve single-player campaign
No, I
here
see.
would be good.
Where we disagree. We've got enough of everything else. For me, up till today, I guess today I gotta be more realistic about it, but it was, don't give me anything unless it's Half-Life 3, because fuck you, basically. I mean, I guess in one aspect it's nice to actually get an idea of what would have happened. Like, in the end, this is better than nothing, I guess. Not by much, but it's better than nothing.
It's like we all wanted maybe like a short video or a comic book, and what we get is like a Reddit post.
A Reddit post with fake names and gender swapping, and like, it's not ideal, but I mean, at the very least, it can prevent us from hoping something that's never going to happen is going to happen. I guess. Give us a bit of closure, especially for people like me. Like, that was the game I grew up on. That was the game that made me realize that games are the best.
And this is the ending. This is how it ends. It ends in a very meta way. We just get the writer being like, you know what? Here it is. This is what we were gonna do.
Yeah, it's like literally like
years
almost. Like, for me, probably personally, like 15 years down the line. Like, I probably played the first Half-Life when I was 9 or 10, and now 15 years later, 10 of which I was waiting for nothing. Now it's over.
Yeah, I can't say I didn't see this coming to some degree. I think there was a certain point where I stopped expecting it. Like, it would be like every E3, you're waiting, you're like, oh, is this
Valve's
it?
not going again this year, like,
or or he downstage, you're like, oh, is this it? And then he says something else, and you're like, okay, I guess Gabe Newell's just not going to announce it. And it got past a certain point where, I had a hard time imagining I think the last time I had even a glimmer of hope that they would do it is when the Vive partnered with Valve or with Steam, and I thought that that's maybe a potential like a hint that they might be doing something, because they were making projects, right? So I thought maybe one of the big projects would be Half-Life 3 VR or something.
Yeah, which would make sense. It would allow them to revolutionize the genre for a third time, which is what I was on the impression the reason why they were waiting was to be able to do that. But I don't know anymore.
So is like the lab canon? Would that be Half-Life? Is that the closest to Half-Life we were gonna get at this point?
I mean, that's more like a Portal spin-off.
That's true. More Portal.
Than a Half-Life spin-off. That's Aperture Science.
Aperture is involved in Half-Life.
It is. It's part of the same universe, but it's different. Still different game series.
You still never know, though. They might shock us in 20 years from now.
20 years.
Is there even any fans who are going to be
like 40-year-old man, got my kids, and I'm like,
yes!
Oh my god, it's
happening! Like, dads around the nation are like crying.
Yeah.
some moms too, but just like everyone's gonna
40 to
lose it.
50-year-old
Parents.
demographics just
Yeah.
gonna fall off the face of the planet for a few days.
It's just parents.
Everyone
are gonna,
quits their jobs for like 2 months, not even a week.
yeah, it's gonna cause a problem. Like our country will fall apart.
Yeah.
Like it's just gonna be a disaster.
I guess in that sense, it's good that they don't release.
This just in: the president has resigned in order to play Half-Life 3.
This is where it's heading at this
Yeah.
point.
Well, there isn't much more to say on it. We could spend like a whole podcast talking about it, but since I'm the only like hardcore Half-Life fan here, I'm not gonna drag you guys into that.
Yeah,
Well-
don't any spoilers for me, right?
Yeah, everybody dies,
Yes.
and nothing happens because it never finishes.
Well, what did you kind of your opinion, like, if this really was the end of Half-Life, if this is really, let's say they released the game and this was the story, how would you have felt about this as the conclusion? Let's say they stopped making Half-Life after this one. How would you have felt about that?
I think it was definitely very much in line with what I would have expected. I never expected like a grand heroic finality to the story or like struggle against the Combine. And when you read it, like it's very much left in the open. Like you still don't know anything about the G-Man. You still don't know what's happening with Alex and what happens with Gordon. Like he's kind of like lost in space and time, so to speak, or literally. So obviously, like, a game itself probably would have given some more details, or at least some more clues to like ideas of what would have happened, or like theories of who G-Man was, what they're doing, and all that. But I think like from what we got, yeah, if that was episode 3, with obviously more details and still great combat and everything, and that's how it ended, I'd be okay with that. Because I expect them to end it in like a limbo state, similar to how they ended the first game and the second game before the episode, right? Both, and like you go through the whole story. You get to the end, G-Man comes, like, whoop, and maybe you'll come back, maybe you won't. Which I always expected the way the series to end. But at least the arc within which we were dealing with would be done, you know?
Yeah. You just left on a cliffhanger, which is...
Not just a cliffhanger, like a massive, heart-wrenching cliffhanger. Like, I still can't believe that when I first played that was the last time I was going to experience anything new in Half-Life.
I didn't expect that either. I'm like, oh boy, can't wait till... Everyone's just like, I can't wait till the next one.
Yeah,
And
10
I
years
don't think they
later,
know.
oh.
But at least, I am happy at least we got something. Because you know what? If we just never got anything, it'd be even more like... it would have been a lot more difficult to swallow that pill.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that we got something. Just something. I'll take it.
Something that is almost nothing.
Almost
The
nothing.
closest to nothing.
Basically the closest thing to nothing besides nothing.
But it's still something.
It's almost like, okay, we know you're starting to forget about this and kind of get over it, so here we're just gonna fuck you one last time.
Here, have
just
a
to
roller coaster of emotions if you're fucking morning coffee.
enjoy this torture.
You know what I would really like to see? I hope someone makes it in like the Source engine. Someone just redoes it and does the voice acting. Because I mean, we know roughly what happens. So someone could technically.
Yeah,
just
no,
make
there's
it.
enough there to make, like, if someone wanted to do a mod, something like the Black Mesa mod.
Yeah, they could
They
technically.
could.
It can be done.
It could be done, yeah. There's enough of a blueprint to work with it and make it happen.
But they would need to hire like third-party voice actors.
Yeah. And get permission and everything.
But you know what?
Maybe.
Maybe. Because now the fans can do it. I'd like to see that. All right. So are we shelving Half-Life 3 now?
Yeah.
Forever
I
potentially.
don't want to cry on camera. So yeah, we'll move on to your topic.
My topic.
Yeah. Topic.
All right, so there was a couple things that I wanted to talk about, but I'll start with something that I kind of realized not through games, but actually through a TV show, which then led me into games right after. So it all started. I was watching a Game of Thrones review. No spoilers here, everyone. Don't worry.
This isn't a Game of Shit Thrones podcast.
Yeah, don't worry. I won't say shit. But yeah, they were talking about like franchise fatigue and how like the franchise is kind of, getting exhausting, for lack of a better word. And it made me think about all these games that I used to love playing but no longer play because of franchise fatigue, such as like Assassin's Creed or, I'm sorry to say, Mass Effect. Definitely Call of Duty is the easiest one.
Yeah.
And then something happened yesterday where at Gamescom they were like, oh hey, like here's Age of Empires 4. And I was like, well, that's a way to avoid franchise fatigue. You know, like, so I'm one as a huge Age of Empires fan, like somebody who grew up off of that.
And who didn't / isn't.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Like
Right?
I am
Not much.
stoked off life right now. Like I am super happy that there's a new Age of Empires coming out. But my point is franchise fatigue, and how can we battle it, or how can we avoid having all these great series of games hit their franchise fatigue? Like Call of Duty, like I don't really care, you're just another gun game, like with historical storyline.
That one jumped off the bridge a while ago.
Yeah, exactly.
I honestly think that the best way to avoid franchise fatigue is to do what. I know I'm sucking Bethesda's dick a little here because I'm a really big fan of Bethesda, but I like the way they handle their franchises and that they kind of go back and forth between two major series, and it gives time to kind of get excited again for the next one, whether or not it's as good as you want it to be. Like I know you were not that impressed with Fallout 4, but nonetheless, I still think that kind of giving a downtime for, let's say, Elder Scrolls, despite people being like, oh, I really want a new Elder Scrolls. Yeah, everyone does. But that creates that need for it. And by doing that, by creating that need, there's a bunch of years in between each game installment, and it makes it a lot more satisfying when another game comes out and you're still excited to play the sequel, rather than, like shooting out an Elder Scrolls every 2 years or every year, and then, it starts to become stale. Like, you get franchise fatigue. Call of Duty is every year. And at least Call of Duty does try to spice it up every year and does like, oh, sci-fi, oh, now we're going to World War II. But it's Call of Duty at the end of the day. It's still Call of Duty. The same basic loop is the same. You're still shooting people. The online is very similar despite having different skins. I do think that even now we're getting this Wolfenstein series that's being dragged out a little longer over time, not like every 2 years. And I think it's brilliant. I think the way they pace their games is a lot smarter than most companies.
Yeah, for sure. You would just hope that pacing would pay off into a good product, which Fallout 4, they did it. Wolfenstein and Doom and Prey and all that, like, great. And I'm sure the new Wolfenstein already looks great. But bringing back to Elder Scrolls, if after what will probably be close to 8 years, if we're giving a rough estimate between Skyrim and whenever this one releases, if it's a disappointment like Fallout 4, then you're gonna be like, why did I wait 8 years for this? Similar to why did people wait 7 years between Fallout 3 and Fallout 4?
Well, if you can't do Vegas,
yeah, if you can't do Vegas, then like, okay, 6 years. Still, you're like, I waited this long, and this is what you gave me. So that's where that pacing can backfire, right? Because when you set yourself up to not release a game every year, the expectations are higher.
Yes,
which is, again, sorry to bring it back up, probably part of what happened with Half-Life 3. Every year that passed without a Half-Life upped the expectations.
Yes, that's true.
So every year that goes by without Elder Scrolls, we're like, okay, this has got to have all the best stuff from the previous Elder Scrolls. This has to have everything that The Witcher did right. This has to have everything that Persona has, or like certain degrees. Like, this has to be the apex of open world role-playing games if it's going to take 10 years to come out. Especially with all the games that have come out since Skyrim. Because if you can compare Skyrim to other open world games today, like, it starts to fall short in certain areas.
Right.
So in order to make this pacing worth it, they have to deliver an ace.
I'm 100% sure they know that. I think there's a lot more riding on Elder Scrolls than there was on Fallout.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Fallout is a popular series, but it's nowhere near as popular as Elder Scrolls.
And Elder Scrolls is their own, right? Fallout is an IP they bought. But as long as they have Elder Scrolls, then they're fine.
Right now, I don't think they're working on it. Right now, they have Elder Scrolls Online. I think it's the card game that they're focusing on.
Yeah, those are different development studios. Like that core group with Todd Howard. I mean, they have those 2 other games they haven't said anything about yet, but they're probably working on. And I'm sure they already know like where Elder Scrolls 6 is going to take place. They have like the storyboard set up, but yeah, it's probably still a ways off.
I think that's all right. Because like, even if they have those 2 other games that they're going to release, that'll add to the mix. And maybe even if they start releasing games more quickly, at least we'll have these 2 other games. Like, it'll be like one episode of Fallout, one episode of Elder Scrolls, one episode of blank, one episode of blank 2, and then we'll get like 4 games simply.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. I don't think there's a single Bethesda franchise that has seriously disappointed me in the last few years. Like with Prey, Dishonored, Wolfenstein, Doom, Fallout, and even Fallout. I'm not like, it's definitely not that doesn't meet expectations, but I still think it was a good game to some degree. And Elder Scrolls. So it's basically like they're just releasing like awesome games all the time. Like even Evil Within, which I'm a big fan of.
No, yeah, they certainly have a long ways to go to be complete, unreliable garbage. But we got to see, will they learn from their mistakes of Fallout? Will they listen to the fan criticism when it comes to Elder Scrolls? Because you can't really relate it to the other games you don't know about, because we don't know about them. And obviously that stuff doesn't apply to shooters and first-person action games like the rest of their games they publish. So it's really, I mean, unless one of their unannounced games is another open-world RPG and like a different, same formula, different setting, then you see what to do with that. That can kind of get us thinking what Elder Scrolls 6 would be like.
I just want to say one other thing though on this topic actually is that we're talking about Bethesda right now, but I think we're going to talk about franchise fatigue. You can't really avoid talking about Ubisoft, which is a company that's been attacked for having franchise fatigue related to almost all their series.
Absolutely.
So I mean, the Tom Clancy games are sort of trying to branch off on do their own thing, but if we're looking at Far Cry and Assassin's Creed, it's like it's become almost a meme about how like you're doing the same open world. Gotta get the tower, gotta do the outposts, and it, you know. This, although if you can do it, like it's not mind numbing, but it's definitely like it's starting to show, like we're seeing through the body and seeing the skeleton of the game design, and it's starting to feel a little bit old and stale.
It's the same every time.
Yeah,
it's new code.
Yeah, exactly. Same mission with a different spin. You know, same frame.
I'm hoping that I don't know whether this is rational, and I am excited for Far Cry 5. I did skip Far Cry 4 and Primal, so I guess there's been a longer gap of time for me personally to get excited for another one. Okay, well, that's good to know. I do know that they're including a few interesting things in this one, at least like to try and spice up the franchise. But let's see, do you guys think this is enough to? You've all played Far Cry, like any of them. So this is what they're adding, at least as far as I've seen so far. What they're putting into the Far Cry 5 that's different from Far Cry 4 is that they're actually you're gonna be able to pilot planes now, like. And you're gonna have dogfights, so that's just one thing. You're gonna have like companions, customizable characters, and what was the other thing? I mean, there's a few small things that I'm not that intrigued by, like there's fishing, but I feel like for some reason every game has fishing nowadays. I just don't get it. But aside from that, I just think the concept is really what got me. This time, that we're going to the States, and like
that's the main thing that appeals to it for me too. Is it's not some foreign tropical paradise gone wrong. It's like, at least for us here, it's our own backyard, so to speak, you know. And considering the themes are going at, like the religious themes, and I don't know if we've seen anything from this. Maybe there'll be some racial issues there too, especially with what's going on in the world now. It could be much more
really
relevant and relatable, which always helps any work of art get a bigger audience when it's like, oh, this is relatable to things we're dealing with right now. So if it does a good job of approaching those themes, then it could definitely differentiate itself from its predecessors.
What about Assassin's Creed Origins, which is now given a longer gap of time between entries also? So Assassin's Creed used to come out every year, and now we've got a bit of a break, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
But can Origins do the thing we've been talking about with Bethesda? Can it deliver a more unique experience and revitalize the franchise, or will it just be another Assassin's Creed that took longer to make?
I think it's just going to be another Assassin's Creed that took longer to make. Like, I love the whole Egyptian time era and the idea of it all. Like, I love all the things that are kind of new to it all, but I know, like, I could be wrong, but I just know that it's going to be the same. Kill that guy, kill those 5 people, climb those 6 towers, get this invention, and then kill the final guy, and rinse and repeat. Like, I just feel like that's the way it's going to be. That's the way it's been through, 4 Assassin's Creed, 5 Assassin's Creeds now, and then it's...
Probably even more if you're trying to hold the spin-offs.
Yeah.
A lot of spin-offs.
Yeah. So it's and for Far Cry, like... I've been up back and forth with Far Cry. Like, I love it one day, I don't love it the next. Primal, I was like... As you guys remember, I was hung up on Primal for the first 3 hours of gameplay, and then I was like, I made a mistake here. This game sucks.
Yeah.
I feel like they're kind of going to piggyback a little off of Just Cause, in a sense.
Okay.
Like, they're with the whole airplane idea and everything, like being able to pilot planes and have dogfights. It's kind of like that's the way I see it. And Just Cause, I'm not even a huge fan of that game. I played the first one, but
Played the first Just Cause?
Yeah, that's a long.
You're like the only person I know who's played the first and not the other 2.
Yeah.
I've never even seen gameplay for the first one. The second and third of just grapple hooking around and blowing shit up. I mean, they're really fun. I highly recommend playing the second and third. I think if you have PlayStation Plus, the third one's free right now.
It's possible.
But I recommend checking it out. It's like that's a game that I think avoids a lot of problems of franchise fatigue by just being stupid. And it's like,
Yeah,
we know we're
that's-
stupid, let's be stupid. It doesn't take itself seriously, and that's why that game is fun.
Yeah.
And that franchise stays fun because of it. Rather than, if you take yourself too seriously, it does become hard, especially if you're releasing games way too frequently. But Just Cause also doesn't come out like all the time. There's been only 3 of them in total, and it's been a franchise that's lasted 15 years. So I think that series is okay.
On Assassin's Creed, I definitely like the setting, and like history, obviously, just studying history. So obviously, Assassin's Creed's always had that pull. I think it's doing enough to maybe like at least get people's attention. Like they just leaked like the full map, and it's huge. Like it dwarfs any other Assassin's Creed game.
Seriously, like, so what can you compare it against? Is it like Red Dead Redemption?
Maybe like Red Dead or The Witcher or something like that.
Witcher.
Like I heard again, you see this with any game coming up these days. Like we're doing things like The Witcher did. Like I think they said they're gonna have like
Side quests like The Witcher?
or more like investigation things like Witcher Senses, but with Eagle Vision or whatever. So that's kind of their own idea that The Witcher did something with, and now they're bringing it back. And then like side quests. Big open world you can just explore with like dynamic events and like random encounters and stuff.
That's neat.
But one thing, and this is the thing that stood out to me the most as far as comparisons to The Witcher, is the city that they showed off at Gamescom. It's called Memphis. Like one of the biggest compliments for the city of Novigrad in Witcher 3 is it felt like a real city. Because in video games you got cities laid out in perfect squares,
especially on PC with all the NPCs there.
And you got like all the different trade porter, merchant porter, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's very like structured and like symmetrical and stuff. Whereas real medieval cities aren't like that. They're just like, okay, we have a plot here. This is where the city started, and we just kind of expanded organically out, and then we got this big city. And from what I was reading, is the city, one of the main cities in Origins, is taking that approach. Because in the older Assassin's Creed, like the cities were always nice, but again, this had that very video gaming feel. Like, but this apparently is much more organic. And that's the main thing. I'm like, okay, if your world feels real, then that's definitely something going in your direction.
Well, I know that they're very loyal to the actual history, to the point where that my uncle, who's also really into history, was watching the trailer, and he told me that like just such small details. He was looking at the architecture of one of the buildings and the designs and patterns on it and the vases, and he's like, that's exactly the kind of material and vases they would have had. It's down to like the design of like the small objects in the area were loyal to source material. I just think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Especially like I'm not a huge history buff, and for me, it's just cool that you like it's just an added bonus, and it makes you appreciate the game more if you're in a world that is actually teaching you some history without you even knowing it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the like lead director or producer or whatever on it said had mentioned that at E3 and when he came up, and I'm almost sure he's actually part Egyptian as well.
Oh, really?
So I can't remember his name, but when he did all the like he came up on stage during E3 and like presented the game and everything, and I could be wrong, but by his last name, like he seemed like an Egyptian last name, so
Well, that'd be good.
I could be wrong.
But I mean, honestly, I would take any historian, even if you're Egyptian or not. If you
Yeah.
know the history, that's good enough for me, because then we're getting a good representation of Egypt.
Yeah. Another thing interesting is like they talked about some of the characters, like historical figures that are there, like
Yeah.
Cleopatra, Julius Caesar, and like I studied not from an Egyptian perspective, but from a Roman perspective
Right.
that time period. So even I'm like, okay, I kind of want to play just to see how they represent. Because like I know the bullet points, so to speak, of like their relationship, Caesar and
Yeah.
Cleopatra, and how it all spirals out of control, and when other figures will come in, and how long does the story branch out
I
to?
hope,
You
I
know,
hope
like
a while, because then there's more chance for things to happen. I saw Centurions. I remember I was watching the demo at E3, and I was like, I didn't even consider that Rome would be included in the game. I thought it would be just very small scope and just focus on Egypt and not include other countries intervening.
Yeah.
But that now, like, the scope kind of broadened. Now we're going to have relationships between Rome and Egypt, and that there's a lot more possibilities
Yeah.
for not even just interesting story-wise. We're looking at maybe possibilities for weaponry and gameplay, right? Because the Romans have their own armor, their own weaponry that they can bring to the table, and now we're going to have more to play with, not just Egyptian weaponry.
something I'd love to see that I just thought of now. may get me more interested in the game is if there's like DLC or a sequel that takes it to Rome. Because I know we've already saw Rome in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood,
That was a different
but
time.
that was like a shadow of its former self Rome. You know, that's medieval Rome that has
It's way later.
not as much significance in the world. But Rome in that period, that's like basically as it's rising to its apex of power. Like it's not quite there yet, but it's growing, and I'd love to see how they represent that.
Yeah, that would be pretty badass. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if they'll do it. It depends, I think, on how successful Origin will be. But
which I think financially it will be. I think enough people will buy into the it's been a year thing. Let's give it a shot, and enough people will be like, oh, Ancient Egypt games don't do Ancient Egypt. This is fun. So I think sales wise they'll be okay as long as the game isn't another Unity that launches as a complete mess of bugs and. Like they have to be really careful with that.
I don't think it'll be like another Unity, just because Unity was their first launch of an Assassin's Creed on a new console, and Syndicate didn't have the same issues. And then on top of that, they had an extra year to try and iron out.
Yeah. So it shouldn't be an issue, but they also have to make sure it isn't in any way, because at this point you can't take any chances of things like that sinking your revival of a franchise.
Well, I know that to this day, it's like this is how I see Ubisoft handling Assassin's Creed, is that as long as it's a profitable series, they'll continue to do it. The second they fall into trouble, if they feel like the series is going to die, they'll pull out Japan. And then everyone buys that. Yeah. Everyone will buy Japan. It's like they're like, well, we can't do anything else. Japan. And then everyone's like, oh, ninjas,
Japan, no ninjas,
samurai. Yeah. Everyone buys it.
I mean, you can even say Egypt's a kind of ace in the hole, because Egypt's always like the really popular ancient Egypt. So
that's true.
Yeah, they're pulling out the stops for this one, I think. But you have to see more. See how it reviews. Definitely not a day one buy, but definitely something on my radar.
When it goes on sale, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe
next summer on the summer sale.
I might be day one just because I bought during the E3 sale on Amazon, where you get like if you buy a bunch of games, they're all like discounted, and I was like, $50, fine.
You would. Yeah. Yes.
Do you want to move it on to?
Yeah, let's move on. Unless you have anything else you want
to. No. We kind of went off on a tangent, but it was a relevant tangent, but we covered the bases.
Okay, well, I think my final question or topic is relevant to this too, because I was talking about all these games that I'm buying on Amazon, and although buying physical copies, buying a lot of games is a very common thing nowadays with digital distribution, with sales, with Steam sales, and so you don't have to take a physical room with it. You have them all on a hard drive, and we have big enough hard drives to hold these libraries. So now we're looking at situations where you're getting humble bundles and sales. You amass this crazy amount of games. We're talking about hundreds of games. An amount that would have blown my mind as a kid, where I had to like manage with 5 or 6 games, and I was like, I'll play these over and over till I die. And now I have roughly 2,000 games to play, and I barely played half of them, if that. So that begs the question: this isn't just for me. I know this is not just a me problem. I definitely have this problem, as you know, but I know I'm not alone, and I see a lot of people discussing this on the internet, and I'm wondering, what does that do to the game experience? What does that do to appreciation of games? Does it water it down? And I obviously have my own opinions, but I want to know what you guys thought about that.
Well, I have a huge, and I've known this for a few years now, like I have a huge issue with what I call gamer ADHD. So with all the games that there are and all the ease of access there is to getting them, I too find myself with hundreds of games in my Steam library, and one second I'm playing whatever it might be, PUBG, and then the next second I'm like, oh, I want to play Shadow of Mordor, and then I finish one mission and I want to go to Stardew Valley or Subnautica or whatever it might be.
Overwatch.
And I could sit there for 12 hours and play 12 different games and still not feel complete inside, which I hate so much, because when I was younger, it'd be like you said, like you have 5 or 10 games or whatever to choose from, and you're like, all right, like I'm gonna put in Super Smash Bros. Melee and I'm gonna get all 24 characters right now today. Like it's ped day, I'm doing it.
Yeah, that's how games used to work, right?
And now it's like, all right, well, like I got this weapon. All right, I'm gonna go on to that game and play 1/4 of Madden, and then switch over to, and then I'll score 1 goal in FIFA or whatever, So I hate it, and I've been trying to find ways to overcome it. and it's killing me because then I switch to the next game, and then I want to go back to the old game, you know. And I just want to play my game, and I want to beat my game, and I'm OCD in the sense where I want to get as close to possible as beating the game 100%. You know, like you guys talk about Nier all the time, and you're getting your different storylines and your endings of the game, and I'm here and I'm like, man, I'm only on the 3rd mission still. Like,
Of the first
playthrough, and
barely play anything.
But you know what? I think it's kind of the paradox of choice. It's like you have so many options that you can't make a decision. You're like, I'll never run out of games to play, but you can't play them because there's too many to pick from. You're seeing all these games in front of you, and how can anyone possibly choose? And there's so many different ways you can try. You can randomize it, you can go by Metacritic rating, you can go by which game interests you the most. But at the end of the day, if you're not grabbed in that first little while, if you're not hooked in, then it's going to be just another one of the games that you kind of beat the first level of the tutorial for, and then you're like, oh, do I go back to that one, or do I? Because I'm already too late. Like, it's too late for me. I'm done. Like, I already have so many games where I started them that if I wanted to be like, oh, I should go back and finish that game, there's that list of games that I started and didn't finish is so long that I might as well just tell myself.
That list is more intimidating than the list of games you haven't started. But this issue is actually super relevant for me right now because I was going, like, all last week, I was playing like a bit of Overwatch, a bit of Rocket League. I'm like, I want to play something that isn't just multiplayer. And I got like, okay, I got Pillars of Eternity, I got games that I started and didn't finish, the new Torment, Tyranny.
Oh, shit,
and those are extra hard to get back into. There's also other games I have like Borderlands, Stalker, Shadow of Mordor, and some others where I'm like, okay, which one do I want to play? And then I want to play Shadow of Mordor. And I looked at reviews and I'm like, I don't know if that's exactly what I want right now. And I'm like, okay, let's look at this one. I don't know if I can get into that right now. And then I spend a whole night and I'm like, I didn't play anything. I just watched some YouTube videos and sat here.
That's what happens. But you know what? You know what I find really funny? The one thing for the past, I would say, 10 years that has forced me to play games more than anything else is having somebody like you just bust my ass and being like, you're playing this game.
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends would be like, if you don't play this game right now, I'm going to ruin it for you. And I would be so scared of getting spoilers that I would just force myself to play the game. The worst that had ever happened was, I think, when I was in grade 9, and I was still in this situation where I had too many games. Not as bad, but still. I wanted to play, my friend was playing Metal Gear Solid 4, and he loved it. And I also have this OCD thing where if I'm going to play Metal Gear Solid 4, I have to play 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
So I bought the collection of 1, 2, and 3 on PS2, and I just sat down for like 2 months and just barreled through 1, 2, and 3. And then in January, I started 4, and honestly, that was a crazy experience. I did it with The Witcher as well, just like marathoning an entire series and forcing my way through these out of fear. Like someone's on my ass. It's not like I'm. But you know what? I kind of like it anyways because I end up enjoying the game. But having someone on my ass is like a reason to stick with that one rather than falling off and playing something random and then never making up your mind.
So like weird thing for me, like it kind of similar to this, but not really. A couple months ago, we had the big Steam sale, right? I went and bought like whatever 5 to 10 games, and I'm sitting there, I was tame, unlike some of us.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, I don't know what I want to play. So you know what I ended up playing? I ended up plugging in my GameCube, and I ended up playing Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask and beating those, as opposed to playing new games that I've never played again and being like, I don't know what I want to do. I went and played something really old, and mind you, it was Master Quest, but still.
You have an attachment. The thing is, you already played those games, you have an attachment to it, you have nostalgia. Yeah. And sometimes I do also get those movies. It's almost like comfort food, playing a game for like comfort. Yeah. I'm playing a game for your childhood, one that like really like hit home for you, like you love that game. When you're in a bad place, playing like one of those games is sometimes what you need to do, even if it's a game you already beat. And it seems almost like redundant. You have 100 new games, but you're playing a game you already played. But that's more of like
a million times.
Yeah, but that's like soul food at that point.
And that was part of the problem I was having because, like, I had plenty of games I could play again, like Pillars of Eternity. But I was like, no. Not only do I not feel like playing any of these games, but I need to play something new. I need a new experience. And then the thing I like is when I have a data game, I don't want to split it up, like you were saying, between 10 games.
Yeah.
I want to go whole hog on one game, like I used to with, I did with The Witcher when I came up with, like, one that really comes to mind that I really was like, wake up, play, go to bed, was Skyrim, you know?
Oh man, you just brought back some
Yeah,
numbers.
right? Like that. But none of the games I was looking at that I had, I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready or will want to spend the next 10 hours playing this game. Which is what finally led me to the game I'm playing now, which I told you about earlier. I started playing Guild Wars 2. And if there's one thing you can say that's, I mean, good and bad about MMOs, is if you want a game to play from dusk till dawn, you're going to get it.
They're terrifying for that reason.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, at least if I play, let's say I played Metal Gear Solid 4 from dusk till dawn, I made so much progress that I could probably only do that 3 more times before the game's over. Whereas Guild Wars 2, you do that,
and then you
can do that forever.
Yeah.
You're dead.
And then there's going to be, by the time you're getting bored, you make a new character, and then by the time that character's up,
something.
there's an expansion or some new content, because the way they do it, they have like expansions, and then they also have like dynamic content that they release for free like throughout that like adds more story within the context. It's like when you just like a patch, but like a whole bunch of content for free, so it's like it's always there. And
So you're saying that should be 4 years.
Ryan, please.
well, the reason why I did too, the reason why it appealed to me is because like I wanted a new game, but I wasn't ready to spend money. Like Hellblade was something I really was like, I want to try this. I'm like, I don't want to drop almost $40 on a game I can't say for sure I'm gonna like. But Guild Wars 2, and you get this with a lot of MMOs, which is how they suck you in. But Guild Wars 2 does it really well. The whole vanilla game is completely free, with a few like restrictions to avoid you being like a botter or a gold farm or scam or whatever. But all the content and all the classes and everything is free. So I'm like, okay, what do I have to lose? I'm going to try it, and then when I know I like it, I'll give money to it. So I'm like, all right, this just worked out considering the not being able to play anything situation I was going with before, you know? I don't know how long it's going to last, but it's going to last at least until I find something else to play, so it makes me happy.
You know what it really makes me think of, though, this sort of situation? Even if with a game like Guild Wars 2, just having that whole game be free. Like, this stuff, I always have to wrap my head around this, that if I was back in my 9-year-old body, where I swear to you, I had, 9 GameCube games, maybe, that I played over and over, just to get a glimpse into this world where, it's so easy, for $16 a month, you get a Humble Bundle, the Humble Monthly Bundle, which comes with a ton of games that are really expensive if you get them individually, and you can get free MMOs, and just getting all this access to games would have just crumbled my little fragile mind at that age, just to have that much access to games, whereas then even the internet wasn't as advanced, we didn't play online games as much.
Kind of be on the phone.
Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, so it's so funny to think about that. I wonder if there was no transition period, because I grew to amass a giant library. What if it was thrown at me?
Yeah, well, I went through something that I guess could be kind of similar to just that mind-blowing experience. Was when I first dabbled in MMOs, when I first played RuneScape.
Oh.
Back
oh boy.
Grade 7, grade 8, I was just like, let's try this out. And the concept of an MMO where you just have I played LAN multiplayer games, but the concept of a massive online game where you just come into a world and there's literally dozens of other players around you was completely foreign to me at the time. I go in and I'm like, I remember pretty sure I walked up to someone like, "Are you a real person?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Holy shit, what is this game?" And it just blew my mind.
I actually, I don't know, I didn't ever really get that much into RuneScape specifically, because I tried playing it one day and I made it, I started getting further in the out of the tutorial, and then I had a power failure and it erased my progress somehow, and I was like, nope. But I did, my MMO was MapleStory, actually.
Yeah,
the first one I got sucked into.
I dabbled in a bit before I got into World of Warcraft. I went from RuneScape to MapleStory, Silk Road Online, FlyFF, Priston Tale, and then finally I was like, all right, let's play World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft is the final stage of, it's the heroine.
At that time especially, because that was when it was 2005, 2006, and even before their first expansion. So that was the end all be all of MMOs. I'm like, I'm gonna get there eventually.
Sure is.
I just have to convince my parents to pay for it.
That was what initially scared me off of World of Warcraft. Because I remember I used to be really into Warcraft 3 and seeing World of Warcraft as a real giant world where you can meet people and play with other actual people blew my mind. And I was like, no, this isn't real. This is made up. But then when I saw it, I was like, oh, it has a monthly charge. And then as I was kind of avoiding it for that, I didn't have the money for it. And then as I got a bit older, in my teens, I was like, the real reason I started to avoid it was because I knew that if I played that, there goes my life. So
Yeah.
I'm like,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
it.
I can vouch for that.
I think everyone I know who played it can vouch for that.
I literally just weekends just wake up, play, go to bed, wake up, play, go to bed, go back to school.
I mean, I did it with other games too, but it's just like one game I just couldn't do it. I'm still scared of playing. I still harbor fear for World of Warcraft. It's like going to hard drugs.
Well, especially now that it's like so advanced.
There's so many expansions.
Yeah, there's so much to do.
Like I had a friend like asked me to start playing again. He's like, yeah, I just want to do like dungeon runs or whatever. I can't even remember half of the game because there's been so many expansions since I last played. But I thought about it and I was like, all right, I got the 14-day free trial or whatever just to see if I would enjoy it again. I played for maybe a couple hours and I was like, no, I can't give my life to
It's
this
not that
again.
you're not enjoying it, it's that you have to protect yourself.
That's it. It's, like no other game has given me that. Like I don't play MMOs for this reason, but World of Warcraft, above all else, is the one game that I am the most fearful of.
Yeah.
Because I know that
Especially
it's
with
like going to the dark side.
especially with the monthly subscription, because that's a lot of money. Like the only reason I gave Guild Wars a chance was I'm like, okay, I'll drop a full price new game money at this, and I'm good until the next expansion in like 2-3 years, right? It's like a normal pricing for a game, but $15 a month. Imagine for the people who've been playing World of Warcraft since launch. That's 13 years. Will be 13 years in November.
How much a month? 15?
$15 a month for 13 years.
Okay, I'm busting every
Yeah, I was
calculator.
about to
have
say, do
time
you want
for
me to
this.
bust out my calculator?
I don't have time for math. 13
It's like
times 12.
$15.
So it's $15 you said?
$15 a month
So 15 times 12
times 13.
times 13.
So it's like at least 10 to 15 grand.
It's not. It's less, but
Yeah,
it's still it's $2,340, which
Oh,
is
wow,
still
that's a
Plus, how many
Aesthetic,
expansions? 1, 2,
oh, right, expansions.
3, 4, 6 expansions at like,
So
I think they were
60
originally like
bucks?
50, somewhere at 50. I think it varied like from 40 to 60. But
I'm just guessing they're all 60, and I'll put 360 on this. So it's 2,700, and that's without if you pay other microtransactions. Can you get aesthetic things in World of Warcraft?
maybe now, I don't know. Not back in the day. That was
No, not back in
that was
the day.
recently.
Well, so almost $3,000 on one game.
Yeah.
You can also play other games, but if you're playing it since launch,
Yeah.
that's not. Okay, that's pretty bad.
I mean, yeah, okay, it's over 13 years, but that's
It's one
still-
game now.
Yeah, it's one game. Like,
You could play Guild Wars 2 for 13 years.
and you're gonna spend maybe like a couple hundred, depending on the expansions. But what Guild Wars 2 does has that can sink your money is, since like any game that MMO doesn't have a subscription fee, it's got
Loot boxes.
it's basically got like you have the auction house, the trading post they call it. But there's a lot of things you can buy with gems, and gems you either can trade your in-game money for or buy with real money.
It's
But
gonna getcha.
where they do it so it's acceptable is none of the things you can get with gems make you a better player. It's all like cosmetic and convenience. Like, oh, you want an extra character slot for your account? You can use gems to pay for it, or like basically you can pay for it. You want more bag space, you want more bank space, you want cool skins for your armor. You can even pay like for some of the story content. The way they do it is they release story content, and if you're like an active account and log in during the story content, you get it for free. But for me, like the old story content now
Oh, you
that
missed it.
I missed, I have to pay for. I can pay with real money. It's like a DLC price, like $15-20 for like 8 episodes of a story. Or I can use gems if I'm like a super rich player and like transfer gems. But even that, like, okay, it's like, oh great, more money I have to throw at this game. But I'm like, it's still cheaper than if I had to spend $15 a month going forward. So I can't like,
Sure.
you know.
But it's the time, man. It's not the money for me.
Yeah.
It's the time. I don't have the time to be playing. Like if I sink my time into I don't know. I won't have time for the hundreds of games I have.
Well, I like to have that MMO in the back when I'm frustrated with Overwatch, bored with Rocket League, and can't decide what I want to play. Then I'm like, all right, I'll just play some Guild Wars 2, which is what I'm doing now, until something jumps out at me and I'm like, okay, now I actually really want to play this.
Okay,
It's my back burner game, so to speak. Like I just play it when I have nothing else that I'm ready to commit to.
Well, if you want, I'll bite the bullet. I will most likely end up buying Hellblade soon, and then I can recommend to you.
Yeah, let me know how that is, because that's something I want to try. But
Not committed.
I'm so like I try to be so stingy with my money with games. So even $40 or $32, I'm like, if I don't like it, that's $32 down the drain. Whereas now, if I give $30 to Guild Wars, like I already like it, so I can justify.
Yeah. Okay. So it's better if there were more demos like there were back in the day, where you can really see whether this game is for you or not.
Even if it was just like a 20-minute demo, just to try out the gameplay of like a game like Hellblade or anything. I'm like, oh, okay, this is good enough that I'm willing to take a chance on.
Yeah. Well, either way, I think it was a bad idea to buy as many games as I have, but I feel like I'm already in it for the long haul. Might as well just keep going with a bad habit. Keep buying games, never playing. I feel like the rate I'm going, I could probably just open up a museum by the time I'm like 60. Just like, I don't know, open an arcade at this point.
Well, besides, most of them are on your Steam library.
I'll
so
hook them up to a bunch of computers.
Yeah.
Just have a bunch of
arcade.
screens.
Yeah.
Just
Look at all my games.
I also have a ton of old consoles. I feel like I could. Maybe I can this.
you have a pretty large collection of hard copy games as well.
Yeah, I mean, or maybe one day I'll just hate video games and sell all of them. But,
Let's hope that day never happens. I'm terrified to think what would have to happen in your life for that to happen.
I honestly, I thought about it. Like, I feel like the one thing to make me hate games would have to be, first of all, I'd have to have someone sabotage my career so that I can never work in games, and then I'd have to have someone just break my games. Like, I mean, burn my consoles, melt my hard drives, and just, cut all the discs in half, break all the cartridges in half, and just leave it in a nice tidy pile. For me to come home and just see that with a notice like, yes, you are a sex offender and you can never work in games again. Oh, thank you very much. Like in a sealed letter with like a wax stamp on it, and just be like, I hate video games. I never want to see them again. I will now become a doctor.
Take one of the broken discs, just
Yeah, or maybe just kill myself. Also,
at that point,
if I become a registered sex offender, it'll be hard to get work anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, they label me as one. I'm just ruined. Forget games, forget anything.
Yeah.
But yeah,
like a janitor or something.
ruining my career and breaking all my games. I think that would make me kind of feel at least maybe for a little. I feel like maybe when
Eventually you'll come back around.
Someone's gonna be like, hey, check this out. I'm like, no, I fucking hate games, and they're gonna show me this one game. And
it's
I'm
all
like,
about sex offenders.
It's kind of that would make me kill myself.
How to make it as a sex offender.
Sex offender sim.
Well,
Oh,
it's
man.
it's close to home. But yeah, no, I hope that no one ever falsely accuses me of being a sex offender and ruins my chances of working
I hope
games.
no one ever correctly accuses
No,
you of being a
that's-
sex offender.
That's maybe a little more important. Yeah, I hope that doesn't happen more. But yeah, that's for the time being, I will continue to buy more games I will never play, and I will never learn my lesson. That is the moral. There is no moral.
There's no
That's
moral.
the moral.
You're missing the moral.
That's it. That's the end of the story. There's no moral.
Yeah, I don't think I'll learn my lesson either. I'll continue to indulge and spend money in games that I might never play.
I've managed to actually be pretty good.
Yeah, Jacob's a good one.
I spent $20 on the Steam sale.
Oh,
About 2
self-control.
games.
2 games?
Yeah.
What are you?
And I haven't even played any of them more than like a few hours. Like I bought Stick of Truth, and I bought this this Warhammer game that's based in like a Left 4 Dead kind of thing.
Oh, Vermintide.
Yeah, Vermintide, I think.
Vermintide.
My friends got it, and I'm like, get it. And I'm like, alright, I've never played it.
I've been thinking about getting it now, but I feel like I'm gonna end up doing the same thing. Like, no one's gonna play with me, and I'll never play it. So
Like,
it's
I
kind
knew
of
I shouldn't get it when I got it, but they're like, come on, get it. I'm like, alright, it's $10. Fuck it.
That's another kind of reason why I don't play some of the games that I have, is that some of them I feel or absolutely need other people to play with. Like I'll play Overwatch by myself, I'll play Rocket League from time to time by myself, and like a bunch of other solo games, like single player games I'll play by myself. But then for example, I'd love to play Gmod more, but just there's never enough people who are really ready to play Gmod or willing to play Gmod, or they're like it's too old, or
I think there was one time we all got on.
yeah, when I first got my computer, we
Yeah.
all got on, and then we played TTD for like an hour, and
Yeah,
then
that was a
we're
lot
like,
of fun. And then everyone, the thing is with like people like our friends, some of them just like, okay, I played one match, okay, bye. And you're like, oh, alright, fine.
put that game down forever.
my girlfriend's home, I gotta go.
Yeah.
Bye.
I wonder who you're talking about.
You.
Not quite.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's eventually one day I'll play them all.
When we're retired, or we win the lottery. We just have time on our hands.
Win the lottery, I'll run out of my money. Then it seems I'm like, well, I have the money
I mean,
for it.
I can literally buy the entire library.
Purchase Steam.
You buy a giant like warehouse filled with like just like kind of like server towers, but are all hard drives filled with
Oh
all
my
games.
god, this is my goal in life now. That is something I need to do.
And like once a week calls us all up like, hey guys, I'm having a giant LAN party. But it's not a LAN party because like I have a warehouse full of servers.
Yeah.
I think this is something I should do.
That's a good life goal.
I should aim for this.
It's a great way to spend like, your lottery winnings.
Yeah.
If you win the jackpot.
Yeah.
Well, if you only win like 500,000, don't do it. It's not enough
I'll
money.
just buy Steam. I'll
Yeah.
use all my money on Steam sales.
Yeah.
Instead of
Oh,
getting
man.
smart investments.
And then you'd never play any of them. You'd get to the point like, I have all the games, I can't play any of them. Why? I can't decide. What about this one? Yeah, but what about that one? I mean, just keep
What
going
about
and going and
literally
going.
every other great game that I haven't played?
Yeah.
Because I have everything.
Yeah.
Although my goal is actually my actual goal when it comes to buying all these games is to have every game I would be interested in playing. I mean, whether or not I ever play them, whatever. But I ignore like all the Maddens and FIFAs that I'm not that into. I just buy the games that may be interesting to me at some point, and that's the way I collect my games. It's just that way I have every game that made me interested, and whether that means they were critically acclaimed or they just have content that was interesting to me. That's the way I kind of filter them out. So I don't just buy everything.
For now.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else anyone want to bring up?
Unless you guys want to talk briefly about Gamescom. But unless you want to save that for another day.
I mean,
There's not really much to say.
no, I mean, nothing crazy happened. Some good gameplay trailers and
just more information,
Yeah.
a bit of a look at that new game Biome, but nothing too revolutionary.
Yeah.
We didn't get any like surprise.
no, there's no
sequels.
surprises.
No surprises or anything. Well, besides Age of Empires.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one surprise.
Yeah, which I'm super stoked. That's a good-
But aside from that, I don't know. Like everything, there was a lot of cool stuff, but this wasn't E3 caliber.
No.
definitely
It never really is.
Yeah. But I mean, I remember when we got Bioshock Infinite. We got a trailer for that, and that was when we first found out about it, and that was awesome. But aside from that, no.
I'm more interested. I think we'll see a lot of this stuff at the end of the year at the PlayStation.
It's definitely
Yeah,
PlayStation didn't even really show up.
That's
Well,
why
they're saving everything for their own thing at the end of the year.
Yep.
They're gonna have Last of Us 2, most definitely, and then
probably Spider-Man,
probably Spider-Man.
God of War, and some new stuff.
I love how they do it because they like outdid everyone at E3, and then they're like, "Oh, we're not here really at Gamescom," and then they're like, "Oh, we have our own thing going on." So
We'll blow your mind at the end of the year. Check back in a few months.
I'm excited for that.
All right.
Yeah, that's about it.
Well, that's it for another episode of the State of Gaming podcast. Hope you people who aren't watching liked it. Until next time.